Good evening, everyone. This is the BALListic Report. My name is Taylor Moore here with Corey Spivey, and today we're going to go over some of the few Titans offseason changes already, especially from the coordinator position, and also we're going to look at the transformation of the AFC South and how it can affect us this upcoming season. So, Corey, go on and get us going.
Yeah, it's been a very uplifting or very, I don't know, discouraging type week for Tennessee fans all over, pretty much in all sports, college football, NFL, all over. Like you said, we're just going to key in on the Titans here. The Titans have hired their offensive and defensive coordinators, Todd Downing as the offensive coordinator and Shane Bowen as the defensive coordinator. What are your initial thoughts on Todd Downing being hired as the offensive coordinator?
Man, initially I was upset because my thing is like our offense was great, just looking from it from a like stat standpoint and also just from our ranking compared to the league. We was a top tier offense. So from that standpoint, I was like, you know, I can't be too mad just to the fact that they're keeping continuity on the offensive side because that wasn't a problem. So at first I was upset, but then I had to think, I'm like, hey, at least we're keeping continuity from the offensive standpoint. Everyone already know each other coming in. So I'm assuming the transition should be easy. But at the same time, like he's in a position where it's like, you cannot mess this up. Like you really can't mess this up, man. Because my thing is, if the offense were to have a repeat of this past season, I'll be cool with that. I would be personally, man. But I had to look him up, man, because I didn't know who he was. I knew he was a former tight ends coach, but other than that, I didn't know anything about him. So I seen that he was the Oakland Raiders offensive coordinator in 2017. So their offense ranked, I believe, like 19th in total offense, I think. So so from a certain extent, like you can't really look at that to tell how he's going to do here because he had different players and probably like a different scheme to go to as well. So I'm just hoping that he doesn't change the offense too much, but also just use what we have to either repeat the same results and also find some ways to kind of switch it up just a little bit. So what you think?
Yeah, yeah. My initial thoughts, I was right there too. I felt it was move that they wanted to, keep their continuity. They wanted to remain familiar with the guy that they hired. But at first I was a little upset because I was looking for a guy that maybe kind of came out of the blue, this offensive genius, and who knows, Todd may be that guy. But ultimately, as I began to look at it, he's a guy that I believe worked with the tight ends. I kind of see it as a plus. It has as that coach that works with the tight ends. He has his advantages both in the run and the pass game because the tight end is very integral in both of those parts as a blocker and also as sometimes when they release, they can turn into receivers. So I believe he's going to have some kind of a outlook on both. Essentially, that's who the last offensive coordinator was. He was a guy that was working with the tight ends, and he turned into be a good guy, replacing Matt LaFleur, and then now he's gone on to Atlanta. But Henry, Tannehill, AJ Brown, those are guys that are still going to be there. So there's going to be some pieces that he can use there. They're going to get Taylor Lewan back. I'm expecting them to still, have a run heavy offense and then a pass game that basically works off play action, and RPO, being able to open up the pass game basically if the run game is working effectively. So, that's what I'm expecting out of them. But, when we talk about these things that we are expecting from the new offensive coordinator, what are some of the pieces that you think they're going to have to add in order to make these demands or these requests made possible?
Oh man, first off, we have to see what's going to happen with Corey Davis. So
Yeah.
so either way it go, we probably need a draft or either bring in another free agent wide receiver just to help out to make it easier on AJ Brown, man. Because each year, people are starting to realize that hey, AJ Brown is a target. We have to key in on him from the defensive standpoint. So number one, bring in another complimentary wide receiver who can either come in to help out along with Corey Davis, or either just take his spot completely. And then also with Adam Humphries, he's possibly gone. The past couple of seasons, he's been kind of
Mm-hmm.
injury prone for us. So to a certain extent, we don't have like a solidified slot receiver who can help out the offense. Um, and I was thinking maybe we need to bring like a fullback too as well,
Mm.
to kind of help out, man. Because sometimes I would see for our offense, we would use like a tight end in front of Henry sometimes. So so it worked sometimes, but at the same time, it's good to have a designated player for that position instead of just bring someone over just to fill in that role.
Mm.
Um, Other than that, like you were saying, like our offensive line is pretty solid. Hopefully, if they stay healthy, we should be good for another 2 to 3 years at least. Um, Tight ends, we still waiting to see if they'll probably sign back Joano Smith. But other than
Yeah.
that, we have 6 or 7 tight ends lined up. So maybe,
Yeah.
yeah, man. So maybe from that standpoint, it's really just a like plug and play type of situation when it comes to the
Yeah.
tight end. It seemed like, man, because it seemed like just about each tight end, they played fairly well coming in, um, especially when Joano Smith was hurt. So
Yeah.
really, to a certain extent, man, he just from an offensive standpoint, we just need to bring up schemes and different plays uh, that will just bring more flair to our offense. When
Yeah.
you watch our offense, when everything is working, it seems magical out there. It's like boom, you run 2 times, play action, catch, you going down the field. But when it's not working, what do
Mm-hmm.
you do? So sometimes it seems like we're just like in a stalemate too. So maybe it just takes maybe another wide receiver just to help spread the offense somewhat. And it would be good maybe if we can use some more shotgun throughout the season too, because we rarely use
Yeah.
shotgun as much, and also keep Derrick Henry in on third down if possible, because most of the time when they take Derrick Henry out the game, we already know we're gonna throw the ball. So that's how I
Mm-hmm.
kind of see it from that standpoint. What about you?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, you talk about schemes. One of those things you brought up the shotgun. One of the things that I really want to see him do is be able to utilize Tannehill's strengths, especially when the run game is not working. Teams know they're going to come in and Henry is going to be the guy that we're going to run this entire offense through, and that's okay. You got to be able to use your strong suits, but I think they have to have a set of plays that allow Tannehill to drop back, be comfortable, find the reads that he wants, be able to have the philosophy and the options that makes him the great quarterback that he can be. And we've seen them being able to utilize him that. So I think there's got to be some sets, there's got to be some schemes that allow him to still be a quarterback that can run this team, even when Derrick Henry is not having one of those 100-yard plus games. But I think some pieces that they're going to have to add, even though you said, we've got a bevy of, tight ends there, with Anthony Ferguson and Jonnu Smith, we're going to have to see what they do with him. But I think they're going to need a tight end / receiver like Delaney Walker. I mean, I know that they were trying to get ahead of, his decline, and I think they did pretty well with that, with him being injured. But they're going to need a guy that can block, but that can also be very reliable in pass situations on those third downs and those short yard games in the red zone when they're trying to get points. And I think they're going to need, you talked about keeping Henry on the field on passing downs, on third downs. I think that can definitely be of use, but I also think that they're going to need to throw a scat back behind him that can also catch out of the backfield. A guy like Devontae Freeman of old, when they were, contending for the Super Bowl, he was a guy who could come out of the backfield running the ball, but he could also slip out after a block, catch the ball, and pick up some big time yards. So those are the types of things that I'm expecting them to make from a personnel position and also from a scheme change. So, I mean, he's got his work cut out for him, but he's also, like you said, got those pieces that can allow him to be successful. And now as we transition to the defensive side of the ball, Shane Bowen brought back, and I think this is where there's the main cause of concern. What are your initial thoughts of Shane Bowen being retained as the quote-unquote de facto defense coordinator?
Man, so for my initial thought, I was upset, and after I thought about it, I'm still upset. man, man, I think the most frustrating part for me, Man, okay, so I don't know if it was more of John Robinson who made his decision or was it more of Mike Vrabel. But man, my thing is, man, you can't be Bill Belichick. You have to be your own coach, you know. So I don't know if that's just his way of like, hey, you know, I want to have more control of the team or whatnot, or just
Mm,
to be able just to have more say so. Because I know there's more qualified people, you know, and not saying that Bowen is just, you know, terrible and are just trash as a coach. I'm not saying that. But I know there's more qualified coaches that could probably take more command of this position and also be a better leader in this position.
mm,
You know, I know they had interviewed Terrell Austin from the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know, so he was a senior assistant defensive coach in that aspect or something like that. But it's, you know, so it's like other than him, who else did they look at? To my knowledge, that's the only person that they even looked at besides Shane Bowen. So I'm thinking, were you even trying to look for someone to replace? So that's, you know, so I'm hoping he can do well, you know, man. Because my thing is, you have to be optimistic as a fan of the game too, you know. So man, so maybe this year, you know, man, so maybe the first year of him having defensive play calling, this was, you know, just was a way for him just to get 1 year underneath his belt, you know, just
mm-hmm.
for him to be able just to go through those growing pains. And that's what I'm really hoping it is. And hopefully by having a full off season, um, also bring in a couple free agents that don't flake, you know, like we had this past year, you know. So maybe, you know, so it's a lot of other factors too I have to consider. So uh, I'm hoping, I'm hoping, man, that he is able to do well in this position. But if it doesn't go well, man, dude, Mike Vrabel, he's gonna catch a lot of heat for this. He's gonna
Yeah.
catch a lot of heat for this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my only thing, you know, just from, you know, just looking at it as a fan, it's like, hey, you know, when you said that Shane Bowen was calling those plays and we finished like 29th in the league from a defense standpoint, I'm like, you know, and you going back to him again, you
Mm-hmm.
know, so it's kind of like a slap in the face to the players and also from a fan standpoint. So hopefully he has something plan to make it easier for him doing that transition. So maybe he just may be a real good assistant to Shane Bourne for the plays throughout the season. But hopefully he has something planned because you know because us as fans we don't know. So
Yeah. Yeah. There were. I'm right there with you. I was upset when I heard this, but I wasn't shocked. This was a very Titanesque move. They tend to run a very tight ship. They don't like to make a lot of radical changes. They like to promote within. So it wasn't a move that shocked me, but it was a move that made me a little bit upset. And I think the idea behind the hire was number one. Everybody's blaming a lot of stuff on COVID, which it can be, verified that, hey, COVID is a real thing. But I think it was kind of a cop out too, in that, Mike Vrabel was a little stubborn in this, in my opinion. It was, but I believe that Shane Bowen was also crippled last year because, he wasn't given the title, but he was quote unquote given the duties as a defensive coordinator. As Mike Vrabel said, that was very confusing. So to me, it came off as, he was in the position, but he was kind of a puppet because at the end of the day, it was Mike Vrabel's defense. And if that's the case, then like you said, Mike Vrabel, we got to do some looking at him. If you're a defensive guy and then the defense finished bottom of the league, we're kind of looking at you a little funny. But I believe, hopefully Shane Bowen was the guy that put together that game plan for the Ravens, and we can see more of that going forward. So, I'm hoping, like you said, I'm optimistic, hoping that he's the guy because, we've already made our bed and picked the guy, so now we got to roll with him. Just as we said on the offensive side, we've got these expectations for him. We've got these expectations for Shane Bourne on the defensive side. Who are the pieces? Who are the guys? The personnel changes that they have to make in order to make this a success going forward.
man, I honestly, they need to figure out a way to bring back the same schemes that we used, man, when we had Dean Pease.
Okay.
And I hate to kind of go back a bit. Hey, it worked for us, so maybe it's some type of way he's able to implement those same schemes. But also, just looking at it, just from a defense standpoint, the way I'm kind of seeing it, if we can if we can bring in more surety from that defensive line. And if we can bring pressure from there, then it's gonna make the job easier for our linebackers. And if it make the job easier for our linebackers, then to a certain extent, it can make the job easier for our cornerback. So, this may take maybe like a year or two, man. But if we can maybe draft a good, solid defensive end, and maybe sign a solid linebacker too, because there are a lot of free agent linebackers out in the league. But see, the only thing about the Titans is that we don't have a lot of money to be giving away either. So
Yeah.
man, so more than anything, we have to build through the draft in order to bring the pieces in. Hopefully, we'll draft a couple of defensive ends, man, to help out, man, like with the edges, man. But I don't see us bringing back Jadeveon Clowney, man, not unless we sign him back for maybe $3 or $4 million.
Yeah.
That's the only way I would sign him back, man. Anything more than that, he just robbing us. So, man. So that's how I see it. But I really, man, you don't know what to expect because there's so many holes on the defense too. So yeah, so that's just my thoughts on it, man. So let me ask you something before you even jump to your take. So, all right, man. So let's say Corey Spivey, man, you are a free agent cornerback in the league, top 10 in all your ratings. Would you even consider coming to the Tennessee Titans if you were a free agent?
I think it depends on what their scheme is going to be. Are they going to be a team that is dedicated to also stopping the pass? Because you look at a move like, Desmond King last year, he's going to be a guy that's going to have some questions around him moving forward. Are the Titans going to keep him? If I'm a cornerback, it depends. If I'm a top guy, I say no. From the perspective of, even though we're known as a defensive team, the money, as you pointed out, is not there. And if I'm a top guy, I don't know how much I'm going to be pulled to come there if I'm not going to get paid for my worth. When there's, teams like the Miami Dolphins, the Jets, the Chargers that have some cap space as well as some flexibility to plug me in there. So I think that is going to cause a little bit of a problem for them in free agency. I mean, if you're one of those players, are you looking to come to the Tennessee Titans as a defensive back? Yeah. And so I think, which kind of, if I can segue into my take, which leads me right to it, I'm expecting a complete 180 in free agency and the draft decision making more than anything. They're gonna have to go out there and make pass rush a main priority. Of course, get some of those defensive ends, some of those defensive tackles, maybe even some linebackers that can create some pressure. And then they're going to have to make secondary assistance their other point of main concern. They're going to have to go out in the draft and they're going to need to get guys like Patrick Surtain or Darian Kendrick out of Clemson, some guys that are fundamentally sound. They've got talent. They've got the discipline to be able to shut down the pass. But it's all got to start with how dedicated are you to creating pressure up front? Are you going to go after these guys like Yannick Ngakoue, Levante David, that can create this havoc in the backfield? Because ultimately, if you can get all the defensive backs that you want to get, if you cannot create pressure, you can only hold these receivers so long legally without getting this flag thrown at you. So they're going to need to make some 180s, some changes in their draft stock. You can't have those blips, as we're going to talk about in the first round. I don't expect a complete recovery on defense. I'm not expecting them to go from 29th all the way up to a top 5 defense, even though, I would love to see that happen. Yeah. But even if they can just get to middle of the pack, I think keeping the offensive players that they have, they can still be contenders moving forward if they make the right choices in free agency. So now we're going to move down to rapid fire as we begin to close this thing down. We begin to touch a little bit on the draft. One of those suspending questions in the air is, what are we going to do with Isaiah Wilson? What do you think they should do? What do you think they will do with Isaiah Wilson moving forward?
Man, what they should do, man, listen, man, you spend a first round pick on him, you need to try to make it work. Because if not, Isaiah Wilson has just robbed y'all of millions of dollars. So, I mean, what they should do, they should try to make it work, man. But at the same time, then okay, it's a lot of veteran players on that team, man. They're not about to put up with that each and every day, man. So they might just have to
Mhm.
bite the bullet and just let them go.
Yeah.
But man, just but from a draft standpoint, man, I would want to keep him just because you spent the first round pick on him, and just the fact, man, you don't know how. I'm hoping Taylor Lewan comes back healthy from his injury, man. But there's
Hmm.
no guarantee, so it's meant so to a certain extent, it's like if you can get a good offensive lineman, they can last you a good 7, 8 years, if not longer.
Yeah.
So man, so hopefully, man, this is just something, man, where it's something that he's just going through a phase where he can be able to get it all out of his system in his first year because hey, this second year, man, they want to see results, and we hoping that he can come back. As a fan, man, I want his mental health to be right, man. As a fan, forget football, man. Uh, hopefully, man, whatever he has going on, he can get through. So he's able to come back with the team. But with the Titans, man, they probably not with the Titans organization, man. They probably not gonna give him a whole lot of slack. What you
Yeah. I'm right there with you. Yeah. Short, simple, to the point. The damage is done. Let's move on. They sent him away from the team. They're still paying him. They're telling him he's got to get right. He's posting pictures on Instagram and Facebook of his chains, and he's on boats and he's out at parties, and it doesn't seem like he gets it. Um, I just ultimately I don't know what happened. There are a lot of people dealing with and like you said, as a fan, as a man that wants to see the best out of people, I'd love to see him get a second chance.
Yeah.
Life is all about second chances, but this is a business decision. I think the damage has been done, and I think you've just got, like you said, bite the bullet, cut your losses, save the team.
Yeah.
And the team psychology, you can't allow that to happen. It comes to some of these young guys that are going to come in behind him. I think you just got to cut your losses and just go ahead and just move on from them. I think the damage is just done.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, man. So
yeah.
as we talk about another player, man, someone who was consistent the whole year on our defensive side of the ball, man. What should we do with Malcolm Butler?
I like how he recovered down the stretch. He became our best cornerback, especially in the absence of Christian Fulton and Adoree Jackson. He was a guy that came in. He was very proficient. He came in. He played hard. He was where he was supposed to be most of the time. But ultimately, I think they've got to take a loss on him because he's too much of a cap hit. I know that they're gonna lose $6 million by losing him, but they're also gonna gain some money by cutting him.
Yeah.
And I don't think you cut him because he's not talented. You cut him because, again, it's a COVID year. You've got to make some business decisions. He's a solid corner, but I think you just got to rely on, going out and getting another cornerback to replace him in the draft and just hope that Christian Fulton and Adoree Jackson make a recovery. And those are two guys that can definitely fill his position, but ultimately, for a business decision, you've got to move on from him. What are we doing with Malcolm Butler for you?
Man, I'm the same with it, man. I seen a post, man, said that he's due about 14 million. He's coming up, so it's like I want him back because he was consistent, man. But at the same time, at the same time, we can use that money to bring in maybe like a Matthew Judon, from the Ravens because he's
Yeah.
a free man, so, someone like that, But man, but also you had mentioned Desmond King. He's 26 years old, a free agent. Malcolm Butler, he's 30 years old. So maybe,
Mm-hmm.
man, so maybe they use that money after cutting Malcolm Butler, man, just to re-sign Desmond King.
Desmond King.
Again, man, but at the end of the day, we do have Adoree Jackson back because they picked up his fifth-year option. So we have him solidified, and then same with Christian Fulton, like you said, so we are missing those next 3 to 4 receivers, those next 3 to 4 cornerbacks to see who can fill those roles in. So
yeah, and the draft is going to be, very full with a lot of those defensive backs, as it always is. Next up, this guy, he's been there, he's worked hard, he's been through his ups and downs, but ultimately, Corey Davis, man, what are we doing with him?
They didn't pick up his fifth-year contract for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
I know he didn't have Tannehill. I know he didn't have AJ Brown his first couple years in the league, but he has dealt with a couple injuries. He has been kind of inconsistent sometimes. So, man, really, it's one of those things where he knows he's going to get more money by going elsewhere because the team is going to pay him regardless. But,
Yeah.
you know, if he goes, he goes. You know, I'm not really tripping over, man, because we have AJ Brown. You know, I'll rather have AJ Brown over Corey Davis, man, based off his 2 years alone being with us. So I'll let him walk, man. You basically already told him, man, that you're not signing him back after you did pick up his 5th year option. So just let him walk.
Yeah, yeah, I'm right there with you. But I also think they, them not picking up his 5th year option, I think that helped him out, and because it allowed him to be able to have that motivation that fueled his fire, and he had what I believe was one of his best years out of his years that he's been in the league. So I think that it was great advertisement for him moving forward. But ultimately, I think he's just going to be too much to keep, too much for too little. He was inconsistent. I don't know what happened in the last game, but I think that was just kind of the telltale sign of, hey, this guy, he's out of here. He's one of those guys that the Titans are always going to look at. But my fear is that he's going to be, even though he's too much to keep, I think he's going to be that Kevin Dyson type situation where, man, we let go of him too quick. I'm not Derek Mason is the guy I'm thinking about. Derek Mason is ultimately a guy, they let him go. He went over to the Ravens, and he's the leading receiver for the Titans and the Ravens. So I hope that's ultimately not what happens with him, man.
So which team you think he's going to sign with, Ben? I got
that's tough, man.
Already, man. I feel like he's gonna tear us up.
Yeah, I think the team that needs him the most and also will sign him will ultimately be the Jets.
Okay.
Yeah, I see them as that team. Who'd you have in mind as a guy that's going to pick him up?
Man, I said the Houston Texans, man, because I know that Deshaun Watson's gonna go, too, man. So I just feel like they're gonna try to make it easier for their next quarterback coming in, So I feel like because by them letting go of Deshaun Watson, at the same time they kind of frees up in like some of their like salary cap a little bit, man. So they may be able to sign a nice wide receiver like Corey Davis, man. So they might end up overpaying him, but yeah. I can see him staying within the division though.
Yeah,
Wars too, because they may be getting, your boy. So so they might just be making it easier for the younger team, they're trying to build up. So
yeah, and we talk about all these switches, we talk about division, you talk about the Texans. The AFC South is going to look completely different off of some of these rumors that we're hearing. Some of the things, we got Deshaun Watson in the news. We got Matthew Stafford potentially ending up in Indianapolis. We got Urban Meyer going out to Jacksonville and potentially going to have that first-round pick. But let's start in Houston. What are your thoughts on Deshaun Watson? Are they going to move him, or is he staying in Houston? What do you think is going on with this situation here?
Man, he wants out. Man, I knew he was leaving once they signed the new head coach, man. I didn't know nothing about the head coach. Listen, man, they didn't mention nothing about him until they hired him. I'm like, well, I don't know what they were doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I see Deshaun Watson going to the NFC, man. I wish you have to worry about seeing him anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a good thing, man, because the last game we faced, man, if he would have had maybe, man, let's say like maybe like another solid wide receiver, and some more defensive pieces for the Texans, man, they probably would have whooped us the last game of the season. So, man, he always picked our pocket each time we played him, So for him to go, he's helping us out, so hopefully we can just keep gaining control of that AFC division crown each year. But I wish the best for him. I hope he does well. But yeah, I see him leaving Houston, going to the NFC easily.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't think he's going to play another game as a Houston Texan. Their, Nick Caserio and their management is, in my opinion, completely delirious if they think that he's going to change his mind and stay after hiring a 65-year-old guy who's never coached a down of football in his life. So I don't think he's going to play another game. I believe he's willing to ride this holdout, on out, especially sitting on that $80 million guarantee that they've already paid him. And I'm right there with you. I love to see him go over to the Jets and kind of bring that team up. But as a Titan fan who resides in the AFC, let's ship him on over to the NFC. And if they're going to ship him over there, a team that I like to see him go to is San Francisco. I think that, yeah. Is that what you were thinking too?
Their defense already solid. They have a couple young wide receivers, man. You plug them in besides Jimmy Garoppolo, man, that's automatic Super Bowl
Yeah.
visit right there, automatic.
And that's if they keep Garoppolo. I think they would uh, be willing to keep him as a backup guy, but I think ultimately they're going to have to get rid of him. But I think he'd be an excellent backup type guy. But yeah, seeing him in San Francisco would be a place where he could really make some noise, especially with Kyle Shanahan out there. Staying consistent with this quarterback thing, Matthew Stafford is believed to be moved by the Super Bowl, and the Colts are one of those top contenders. If he ends up in the Colts, what are your thoughts on that?
Man, it's kind of the same thought about the 49ers and like with Deshaun Watson. Man, the Colts defense is awesome. They have a lot of veterans on the team, man. So their mindset from the GM standpoint, from the coach standpoint, they're trying to win now. So by them bringing in Matthew Stafford, of course he's younger than Phillip Rivers, and we all know Phillip Rivers just retired not too long ago. So you can put him in place you can put him in place instead of like maybe bringing in a rookie or whatnot, and you can easily win 10 or 11 games, man, because the whole idea is just to get your foot in the playoffs, and really just give yourself a chance. So, from a Titans fan standpoint, I don't want to see it happen, man, because I know, man, because I'm already knowing, man, they want to lose probably one of those games against the Colts, man, because we rarely beat the Colts back to back, So if they bring in Matthew Stafford, I feel like he'll do well, man. He has a lot of weapons already. With the coaches already set up with a lot of offensive weapons. So yeah, if he comes in, I won't be surprised. But it's one of those things where the Colts have to be careful too, man, because they may spend so much time just putting in another veteran quarterback, that their defense might start getting a little bit older. So hopefully they know what they're doing on their side of the ball, man. Because if they don't, uh, man, my whole idea is that if they don't win now, like they're trying to do, then it's gonna be a fail uh, for the organization. Especially, looking at this past year, they went to the playoff, man, but they lost in the wild card round.
Yeah.
So it's a win or lose thing for the Colts, man. Hopefully they know what they're doing. But if he does come, I can just see just the AFC division, man, just being down to the Colts and Titans again, I think.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Once again, I definitely see this happening. It's not going to shock me. And you look at the Colts. The Colts have been kind of the proverbial thorn in the Titans' flesh every single year. And I think the reason that they haven't been able to get over the top and make it back to an AFC championship or a Super Bowl is because of the absence of a great quarterback. And they've got a guy like Phillip Rivers who comes in, and he's been a great game manager. He had a couple of good games, especially against the Titans. But ultimately, since Andrew Luck left, they've been struggling. So getting a guy like Matthew Stafford, he's tough. He's the guy who's even though they haven't had a lot of success as a team, he's been a guy who's been right there in the thick of things. He plays through whatever he has to play through. He's been consistent. So that's definitely going to be a team that the Titans are going to have to watch out for now that they've added this quarterback situation here. And before we move on to our last point, I can't help but ask this question. Phillip Rivers retires. Is he a Hall of Famer, man?
Easily, yeah, easy Hall of Famer, man. Just by his stats alone, I hate that he wasn't really successful in the playoffs, how he wanted to be. But at the end of the day, man, for him to play this long in the NFL, man, where it's constantly it's always a thought of just maybe being, man, like one play of being injured for the rest of your life, so for you to play that long too. So I easily Hall of Famer, but I will say, some people they won't give him his credit just to the fact that he didn't win that Super Bowl. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm right there with another a sports commentator that I'm pretty sure a lot of people heard. He kind of he came in the league at the wrong time. He was going up against guys like Ben Roethlisberger, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and now Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. All these great quarterbacks have come up, and he just wasn't able to get over the top. The Chargers weren't the best organization, but they were right there in the thick of things over and over and over and over again. They were one of those teams the Titans struggled to beat on a year in, year out basis. Ultimately, I do think that he's going to be a Hall of Famer. I don't think he goes first ballot. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't go second ballot, but I do think at some point he is going to be in the Hall of Fame simply because if those quarterbacks weren't there, I think he probably wins one or two of those Super Bowls and some of those good seasons that they have. And as we close this AFC South talk out, what are your thoughts on Urban Meyer going to Jacksonville and then potentially getting Trevor Lawrence?
You know, besides, man, like all his credentials and all his, different awards, man, he's gained from college, man, some coaches do well transitioning coming from college to the NFL, and some just have the hardest of time transitioning well. So so hopefully he can transition well, but at the same time, the team is probably going to go through a couple years of rebuilding, man. So they'll probably trade out some of their best players, man, so they can have some more draft capital. So, man, so I wouldn't be surprised if they go 2-14 again, or maybe win, just possibly like 3 or 4 games. Even if they do get Trevor Lawrence, man, I don't see them even. Yeah, honestly, man, I don't see them even winning like 3 or 4 games upcoming season, man. Because my thing is, it's gonna take a couple of years for him to be able to to be adjusted to coaching 18, 19, 20-year-olds versus coaching players who have sons and family married and businesses. It's a different ball game. So you have to talk to a player a little bit differently, man, than you would to a college player. But I still think that he's gonna try to have some type of that control type of mentality that he had from college, man. But he's gonna have to transition some type of way. What do you think?
Yeah, I was shocked, but I agree. I think it was the best move for the Jacksonville Jaguars. But ultimately, I think they've got to be looking at, some of the things that you pointed out. He was successful in college, but, the way that he went out was, he had a lot of stress and a lot of health concerns, and he's not a very young guy. So that's going to be a concern going forward, as this is going to have to be a process. They've got a lot of holes in that team that are going to have to be fulfilled. And my fear is that they're not going to be able to cure them before he's going to start having these concerns again on his health and, his, overall well-being. I think there's going to be a major upgrade in year one from a personnel and a mentality standpoint, but I don't see them having enough to win the division because the Titans are still going to be the Titans. They're going to run the ball down the throat. They're not going to be able to stop them. The Colts are going to add another quarterback. They're going to be hard to beat. And I think the Texans are, they're going to be a little bit better, but ultimately they're not going to beat these teams, which means they're not going to be number one because that's going to be the Titans. They're not going to be number two because that's going to be the Colts. So ultimately they're not going to be a problem in the playoffs because they're not winning the division. Anything other than, winning 1 or 2 games is going to be an improvement for them. I don't think they're going to have this miraculous change of a season by just adding Trevor Lawrence. I think he's a great player, but I think they're going to need to put a lot around him. I had them going about 6-10, 7-9. Anything over that is going to be a major success for them. And that's me being nice, man. That's really me being nice because that one quarterback is not going to change a lot of their problems. So I don't know. You wish the best for anybody, especially with health concerns, but I don't think the Titans or anybody is going to have any real concern with the Jacksonville Jaguars moving forward. But hey, been good talk. As always, we're going to tighten up. We're going to give you all the news that we get as it comes through. We, as always, appreciate you guys for joining us and putting up with our Titans, fandom and all this type of stuff that we go through. It's been a crazy year, but stay grounded. Never be satisfied. Always send these videos to your friends, other sports fans. Allow them to subscribe on our YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram at BALListic Report Sports. Until next time, I'm Corey Spivey. This is Taylor Moore with the BALListic Report. Thank you.